You're waiting for permission. Taking action is easier than you think you know the moment. That split-second decision between the life you have and the life you want. Why are you still standing still? Let's cut the pleasantries. You're not here for another feel-good pep talk. You're here because something in your life, that relationship, that career move, that essential conversation, is stuck. And deep down, you know exactly why. You've been living your life on layaway, waiting for a feeling, a sign, or a person to give you the nod. You are an adult, yet you operate with the subconscious belief that you need permission to begin. Permission to speak your mind. Permission to walk away from a toxic situation. Permission to pursue the person who genuinely ignites your passion. Permission to fail. You're paralyzed at the starting line, not because you lack desire or capability, but because you are terrified of the self-created consequences of simply acting. This isn't a complex psychological phenomenon. It's a learned, destructive habit of self-inflicted inertia. You've designed a comfort zone so safe it's become a coffin for your potential. The myth of the perfect moment stop romanticizing the concept of a grand, decisive moment. The idea that one day you'll wake up and the stars will align and a voice will boom from the heavens declaring, "Now is the time," is pure, unadulterated fantasy. Life doesn't offer a clean, 100% risk-free opportunity. That's the lie you've been telling yourself to justify inaction. The truth, the first shocking truth, is that confidence doesn't precede action. Action precedes confidence. You believe you need to feel brave before you step forward. You don't. You need to step to feel brave. That gut-wrenching anxiety you feel before asking someone out, setting a boundary, or starting a business is not a red flag telling you to stop. It's the exact measure of how important that action is to your growth. When you wait for the fear to dissipate, you are waiting for a reality that does not exist. The fear only shrinks after you've proven to your ancient lizard brain that the action didn't kill you. It is a retrospective reward. You have reversed the formula for living a dynamic life. Think about the most compelling people you know, the ones who effortlessly command attention in a room, the ones who seem to have life figured out. Do you think they wake up every day feeling like a flawless, unshakable superhero? No. They simply operate under a different premise. Discomfort is the currency of growth. They feel the fear, acknowledge its existence, maybe even give it a little nod, and then they execute the plan anyway. They don't wait for permission because they have given it to themselves. They have internalized the simple but devastating realization that no one is coming to save them. No one is going to validate their desire. The tyranny of potential energy. You live in a perpetual state of potential energy. You have all the stored up force, all the intelligence, all the planned moves. But potential energy, while impressive on paper, has never moved a single mountain. It's the kinetic energy, the energy of motion that changes the landscape. Your life is currently a shelf full of perfectly planned yet unread books. What you call analysis is often just procrastination dressed up in a lab coat. You study the situation, you weigh the pros and cons, you mentally rehearse the conversation 1,000 times. You tell yourself, "I need to be absolutely certain," or "I need to have the perfect opening line." This meticulous preparation, this obsessive need for a guaranteed outcome, is the most sophisticated form of avoidance available to the modern mind. This brings us to the second shocking truth. Your intense planning is not a sign of diligence. It's a symptom of your deep-seated fear of being held accountable for an imperfect result. If you plan perfectly and it still fails, who is to blame? It creates a logical loophole that protects your ego. By staying in the planning phase, you remain a person of incredible potential. The moment you act, you become a person whose results can be measured, judged, and potentially criticized. You sacrifice the extraordinary life you could have for the safety of the reputation of the life you might have. And that is unforgivable. Look at your relationships. How many times have you settled for the status quo out of fear of the temporary chaos that setting a boundary would unleash? You silently resent your partner for a behavior you've never explicitly told them to stop, not because you can't articulate it, but because the act of speaking that truth means you've taken on the responsibility of the ensuing argument, the possibility of resentment, or, God forbid, the end of the relationship. So, you tolerate the intolerable, and your resentment slowly, insidiously poisons the dynamic until the whole thing collapses anyway. You traded a quick, clean break or a necessary adjustment for a slow, agonizing death by 1,000 cuts. You were waiting for the relationship to give you permission to end it or fix it by becoming so bad you had no choice. The cost of the silent life. Every moment you delay, is not a neutral act. It's a withdrawal from your future self's emotional bank account. The opportunities you let pass don't just vanish. They are often seized by the person who was merely 10% less prepared than you, but 100% more willing to hit send, to walk across the room, or to say the difficult thing. Your inaction creates a vacuum, and life, like nature, abhors a vacuum. Let's dissect the core problem with relationship dynamics. You see someone captivating, someone who genuinely excites you, and you immediately begin to calculate the odds. You look for signs that they are receptive, the prolonged eye contact, the open body language, the laugh at your mediocre joke. What are you doing? You are searching for external validation that your approach will be successful. You are looking for a guarantee of a positive outcome before you invest a single, vulnerable moment. The paradox of attraction dynamics is that the moment you stop needing the permission, the moment you own your desire and act from a place of self-determined value rather than other-determined validation, is the moment you become intrinsically more attractive. The magnetic quality of a person isn't their perfectly worded line. It's their unapologetic conviction. It's the clear signal that they value their time, their desire, and their intention enough to risk rejection. They are the selector, not the supplicant. You, right now, are the supplicant. You are standing outside the club, checking your phone, hoping the bouncer notices you. The person who gets in is the one who confidently walks up to the velvet rope and says, "I'm here." The small shift you need to make is this. You are the final authority in your own life. Your desires are the only permission slip you will ever require. Stop outsourcing your self-worth and your life direction to the fickle reactions of others. Your action isn't a plea for validation. It's a declaration of your intent. The painful truth you need to internalize, the third shocking truth, is that no one cares what you intend to do. They only care about what you do. Your brilliant ideas, your detailed plans, your genuine love, they all remain theoretical until you translate them into behavior. The world judges you by your outputs, not your potential energy. You are a secret brilliant writer until you hit publish. You are a potential partner until you initiate the contact. You are nothing but an echo of a life until you act. Your homework is simple, and it begins right now. Identify one thing, one painful avoided conversation, one intimidating email, one person you need to say yes or no to that you have been preparing for. You have 10 minutes, no more research, no more mental rehearsal. You have the words. You have the courage. You are simply refusing to deploy them. Take the action and burn the plan. You've been given the key. Are you going to keep staring at the lock? The tyranny of emotional due diligence. The first step, the brutal act of doing, is often the easiest. It's the second phase where most people falter, retreating immediately after the initial surge of kinetic energy. You took the action, you sent the text, you had the conversation. Now what? You've entered the waiting room and suddenly, the internal noise level goes from a manageable hum to a deafening siren. The reason you struggle with sustained action isn't the action itself. It's the gap between the action and the reaction. You believe the universe or the person you targeted with your action owes you an immediate, proportional, and positive response. When that response is delayed, ambiguous, or God forbid, negative, your mind defaults to a catastrophe simulation. This is where your need for emotional due diligence becomes your greatest enemy, the algorithm of anxiety. Think of your mind as an algorithm that runs millions of lines of code between sending a single email and getting a reply. That code is entirely focused on risk management, or more accurately, ego protection. You aren't genuinely waiting for an answer. You're waiting for reassurance. You're waiting for the other person to confirm that your attempt was safe, smart, and successful. This is not how dynamic people operate. Dynamic people launch and adjust. They don't launch and then pray for zero turbulence. This need for constant reassurance is a massive energy drain, and it's visible. It manifests as anxiety-fueled over-communication in relationships. You send the initial text, and then, because you haven't received the immediate permission, the reply to relax, you send a follow-up. Did you get my message? Was that rude? Just checking in. This is the behavior of a person who believes their own worth is conditional on the speed and enthusiasm of the response they receive. Here is the fourth shocking truth. Your anxiety is not attractive. It is the silent killer of chemistry and respect. When you rush to fill the silence, you are demonstrating a fundamental lack of self-sufficiency. You are signaling that you are highly reactive and easily destabilized. In the context of attraction dynamics, this behavior broadcasts low value. People are magnetically drawn to scarcity and composure. When you are constantly pursuing, constantly needing clarification, you eliminate both. You become abundantly available, and your composure evaporates. You are acting from a place of scarcity. I need this one person, opportunity, to validate me, because I don't believe I can easily find another. A high-value person, one who has given themselves the permanent permission to be, acts from a place of abundance. I've expressed my desire, intention. If this doesn't work, something equally or more compelling will come along, because my worth is self-generated, not externally granted. The energy you project when you're waiting for permission is fundamentally different from the energy you project when you've already given it to yourself. The former is needy. The latter is grounded. The permission paradox in relationships. Let's dive deeper into how this plays out in established relationships. You often find yourself trapped in a cycle of passive resentment. You want your partner to change a habit, to spend more quality time, or to be more emotionally available. But you are waiting for the perfect moment, or, even more destructively, waiting for your partner to magically sense what you need and offer it to you. Proactively, you are waiting for their permission. To demand your needs be met, you frame the lack of conversation as avoiding a fight, but what you are really doing is avoiding temporary discomfort in exchange for permanent emotional rot. By refusing to state your needs clearly and firmly, by refusing to act, you are implicitly accepting the current arrangement. Your silence is a form of consent, and when you finally do explode in frustration, it's not an adult conversation. It's an emotional tantrum fueled by weeks or months of self-suppression. Your partner isn't responding to your legitimate need. They are reacting to your volatile delivery. You created the emotional explosion by waiting too long, by seeking external permission, the tipping point of intolerable pain, before acting. The shift. Stop asking, how do I get my partner to change? And start asking, how do I define and communicate the boundaries required for me to feel respected and fulfilled? You don't need permission to have boundaries. Boundaries are not requests. They are declarations of how you intend to manage your own behavior in the presence of theirs. A request seeks permission. Could you maybe try to be home by 7 tonight? Implies they have the power to say no and your need is secondary. A boundary is a self-action statement. I will make dinner for myself and eat at 7 p.m. If you are not home by then, please don't expect a meal. Implies your need is primary and you control your own action. Key to escaping the permission trap in relationships is understanding that self-respect is not up for negotiation. You don't need your partner's consent to define how you will live your life. You simply need the courage to execute your own rules. The radical simplicity of execution. The truth about action is that it's usually far simpler and quicker than the mental gymnastics you perform to avoid it. Your mind blows up the 1-minute task into a 1-hour ordeal, sending the text, 15 seconds, the internal debate about tone, wording, 45 minutes, waiting for the reply. A full day of anxiety. You spend 99% of your emotional energy on the 1% of the task that involves risk. This mental hypertrophy is exhausting, and it ensures that you have no emotional reserves left for when a real challenge arises. The clear takeaway here is about emotional energy conservation. Stop using your mental resources to simulate every possible failure scenario. The moment you send the email, ask the question, or set the boundary. The mental chatter about the decision is over. All that's left is the reality of the response, which is almost always less dramatic than your simulation. You reclaim your mental operating capacity. You trade the exhausting, complex anxiety of potential action for the clean, finite energy expenditure of real consequence. This is what it means to be outcome independent. It doesn't mean you don't care about the outcome. It means you are not paralyzed by the fear of a negative outcome. You have given yourself permission to try, to fail, to learn, and to pivot. The person waiting for permission is fixed. The person who has given it to themselves is liquid, capable of flowing around obstacles. Your problem is not that you can't act. It's that you are addicted to the safety of the rehearsal room. You love the idea of the spotlight, but you dread the potential for a bad review. End the rehearsal. The stage is open. How much more of your life are you willing to spend in the audience? The hidden power of intentional failure. We need to talk about failure, not as a catastrophic event, but as a necessary functional component of an action-oriented life. You treat failure like a terminal diagnosis, a definitive, irreversible statement about your inherent inadequacy. This stems directly from your need for permission, because permission implies a guarantee of safety. If you are given the green light, the ride should be smooth. When it isn't, your mind sees it as proof that you weren't ready, or that you should have waited longer for the universe's guaranteed approval. This mindset is deadly. It ensures you only take actions where the risk of failure is virtually zero, which by definition means the potential for growth is also negligible. You live a small life trying to prevent small losses. Redefining rejection. The ultimate permission. Let's dissect the fear of rejection, particularly in attraction dynamics. When you approach someone or send that important proposal, you are afraid of the word no. But that no is the very thing you need to liberate yourself. The person who says no to you is not judging your universal worth. They are simply providing a data point. This specific interaction at this specific time does not align with my goals or preferences. That's it. You, however, take that data point and extrapolate it into a sweeping condemnation of your entire self. I am unlovable. I am incompetent. I should have never tried. Here is the fifth shocking truth. The faster you accumulate no's, the faster you gain freedom. Every rejection is a necessary filter, clearing the path of people, places, or endeavors that were never truly meant for you. Waiting for permission is an attempt to skip the filtering process, forcing you to waste time trying to jam a square peg into a round hole. The most confident and successful people, in business, in dating, in life, do not have a lower rate of failure than you do. They simply have a higher rate of action. They fail more often because they try more often. They see a no not as a stopping point, but as a redirection signal. They have given themselves the ultimate permission, the permission to be imperfectly persistent. Think of it this way. When someone rejects your approach, they are giving you the clearest, most unambiguous form of permission available, permission to move on. They are closing a door, saving you weeks or months of ambiguous effort, emotional investment, and agonizing over what if. They are providing you with the exact answer you were terrified to seek, thus ending your internal debate and allowing you to direct your finite energy toward a potential yes. The moment you realize that a quick, clean rejection is an accelerator for your life, your relationship with fear changes completely. You stop seeking validation and start seeking clarity. Clarity is the engine of momentum, the tyranny of the unsaid. The permission you're waiting for is often permission to be honest. Not just honest with others, but brutally honest with yourself about what you truly desire and deserve. You hold back your true feelings, your highest aspirations, and your deepest anxieties because you are waiting for an external validation that it is safe to reveal them. In your mind, if you say, I deserve a partner who is faithful, you are implicitly asking for permission to enforce that boundary, and the potential partner has permission to argue with it. If they argue, you might have to leave. The prospect of that final, irreversible action, the act of choosing yourself, terrifies you. So, you settle into a toxic equilibrium. You hint, you complain, you use passive-aggressive communication, all designed to nudge the other person toward giving you the permission to feel better. The relationship becomes a hostage negotiation, where you are the hostage negotiator and the victim. The final shift. The truth is not a request for negotiation. It is a statement of reality. When you operate without the need for external permission, your communication changes from weak attempts at influence to powerful statements of being. Weak, seeking permission. I feel like we don't spend enough time together, and I wish you would value me more. This frames your value as something they control. Strong, self-permission. I require one dedicated, distraction-free evening a week with my partner to feel connected. If that cannot be met consistently, this relationship does not meet my core needs. This frames your need as non-negotiable and puts the power of choice squarely in your hands. The strong statement doesn't seek permission. It simply states the conditions under which you will continue to participate. It is raw, it is honest, and it often creates the necessary friction to either elevate the relationship or terminate it cleanly. Either way, you gain your freedom back. You trade a slow, draining ambiguity for a fast, powerful clarity. The inescapable conclusion: you have been handed the psychological architecture for a life of perpetual forward motion. The resistance you feel, The desire to wait, to plan, to get one more sign, is not prudence. It is the final desperate struggle of your old, permission-seeking self. Taking action is not the hard part. Tolerating the immediate, messy, uncomfortable consequences of action is. And that tolerance, that ability to sit with discomfort without immediately retreating, is the only permission you'll ever need. Stop waiting for someone to appoint you. Stop waiting for the cosmic sign. The sign is the desire already burning inside you. The appointment is a mandate you gave yourself the moment you realized your potential was greater than your current reality. There is no secret formula. There is only the gap between intention and execution, and you are currently filling that gap with excuses disguised as planning. Close the gap. Your life is waiting for you to simply show up and claim it.